July 31, 1943. As dawn breaks over the rugged Sicilian landscape, the Allied forces are on the brink of a crucial victory. The Battle of Adrano, one of the fiercest clashes of Operation Husky, is unfolding with both sides locked in a desperate struggle. The Allies, led by the 1st Infantry Division, have been pushing hard against the German defences. The German forces, entrenched and resolute, have transformed the area into a fortress. It's going to be a long day ahead for the Allies. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. The year is 1943. World War II is raging across the globe, and the Allies, encouraged by recent successes, are preparing for a bold new offensive. After the victories in North Africa, the stage is set for a grand invasion of mainland Europe. There is just one problem. The Allies can't agree on where to land. The debate among the Allied leaders is intense. Roosevelt and Churchill advocate for an invasion through the Mediterranean, specifically targeting Sicily. They argue that such a move would force the Axis to divert their resources and open up a new front in Europe. On the other hand, Stalin pushes for a more direct assault on Western Europe to relieve pressure on the Eastern Front. He emphasizes that a significant Western offensive would help shift the balance of the war more quickly. Despite the discord, a consensus begins to form. The Allied leaders agree on a compromise, launching Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily, as a stepping stone towards a larger campaign. This operation will not only secure the Mediterranean, but also provide valuable experience and positioning for future operations in Europe. With the plan in place, the Allies mobilize for Operation Husky. The massive buildup of forces and resources is underway, setting the stage for one of the most ambitious amphibious assaults of the war. As the Allies prepare to invade Sicily, the British are tasked with a mission to divert attention away from Sicily. They come up with a daring plan to dress up a body of a corpse identified as Major William Martin, make him carry fake invasion plans about invading Greece, rather than Sicily, and finally let him wash up on the shore of Spain. The body was discovered by Spanish authorities and handed off to the Germans, who fell for the ploy and diverted resources away from Sicily. With the Germans misled and their defences spread thin, the stage was set for the next phase of the Allied strategy. Operation Husky, the massive amphibious assault on Sicily, was about to begin. The success of Operation Mincemeat provided the Allies with a crucial advantage, but the battle ahead would still be one of the most challenging and important of the war. On the night of July 9, 1943, under the cover of darkness, the Allied forces, comprising British, American and Canadian troops, launched Operation Husky. As Allied naval forces approached the Sicilian coast, thousands of paratroopers from the US 82nd Airborne Division and the British 1st Airborne Division prepared for a daring mission. Their objectives were critical: secure bridges, capture vital road junctions, and create chaos within the Axis defences. Landings were spread across several key beaches, with the British 8th Army under General Bernard Montgomery landing on the southeast coast near the towns of Pachino and Syracuse. Meanwhile, the American 7th Army, commanded by General George S. Patton, made their landings to the west near the towns of Gela, Licata, and Scogliti. The American landings faced stiff resistance, particularly at Gela, where German and Italian forces mounted a strong defense. The 1st Infantry Division, known as the Big Red One, spearheaded the assault, battling through enemy fire and difficult terrain. Despite early setbacks, the Americans secured the beachhead, thanks in part to naval gunfire support that pounded the enemy positions. To the east, Montgomery's British forces encountered relatively lighter resistance, but faced their own challenges. The 51st Division and the 1st Canadian Infantry Division moved swiftly inland, aiming to capture the key port city of Syracuse. This early success allowed the British to establish a strong foothold, which was critical for the ongoing operations. Once ashore, the Allies advanced rapidly, but soon encountered the difficult mountainous terrain of central Sicily. The German and Italian defenders, although outnumbered, took advantage of these natural defences, launching counterattacks and delaying the Allied advance. One of the major early battles was the fight for the Primasole Bridge, a key crossing over the Sommerto River that was crucial for controlling the road to Catania. British paratroopers were dropped to capture the bridge, but they faced a determined German counterattack. The battle raged for days, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Though the British managed to hold the bridge, the fierce resistance they encountered slowed their advance towards Catania. In the end, it took the British 3 days to finally link up with the paratroopers. Meanwhile, Patton's 7th Army moved westward, capturing the towns of Licata and Agrigento with relative speed. The Americans then turned north towards Palermo, the capital of Sicily. The swift capture of Palermo on July 22nd not only boosted Allied morale but also provided a critical logistical base for further operations on the island. However, the most challenging part of the campaign still lay ahead. The German and Italian forces retreated to a defensive line anchored on the slopes of Mount Etna, known as the Etna Line. This natural fortress presented the Allies with a daunting obstacle. With rugged terrain and well-entrenched defenders, the battle for the Etna Line would test the resolve and endurance of the Allied forces as they pushed towards the ultimate goal, the capture of Messina. The Etna Line stretched from the northern coast near the town of Troina down to the eastern coast, close to Catania. The German and Italian defenders, under the command of General Hans Valentin Hube, exploited the mountainous terrain, turning every pass and ridgeline into a deadly stronghold. The Allies knew that breaking through this line was crucial to reaching Messina and ultimately driving the Axis forces off the island. One of the first major engagements in this phase was the Battle of Troina, which began on July 31, 1943. The American 1st Infantry Division, supported by elements of the 45th Infantry Division, faced fierce resistance from the German 15th Panzergrenadier Division. The battle for Troina was a brutal week-long struggle, with the Americans enduring heavy casualties as they fought to dislodge the well-entrenched German forces from the high ground. Artillery barrages and airstrikes rained down on Troina, but the Germans held their positions, counterattacking fiercely and using the terrain to their advantage. After 7 days of intense fighting, the Americans finally managed to capture Troina, forcing the Germans to retreat further along the Etna Line. However, the victory came at a high cost, with significant losses on both sides. Meanwhile, on the eastern flank, the British 8th Army continued its slow and grinding advance towards Catania. The battle for the city, which had begun shortly after the landings, dragged on through July and into August. The Germans had heavily fortified Catania, and the British faced stiff resistance as they attempted to break through. After weeks of hard fighting, the British finally captured Catania on August 5, 1943, but the delay allowed the Germans to further consolidate their defences along the Etna Line. As the Allies pushed further into the interior, the focus shifted to the town of Adrano, a key position on the western flank of the Etna Line. The battle for Adrano began in mid-August, with the British 78th Infantry Division leading the assault. Adrano was strategically important, as it controlled access to several vital roads and passes leading to the northern coast and the town of Randazzo, the last major stronghold before Messina. The Germans, recognizing Adrano's significance, had fortified the town heavily. The British advanced under the cover of darkness, launching a series of night attacks to catch the defenders off guard. The battle was intense, with close-quarters combat in the narrow streets and heavy artillery exchanges lighting up the night sky. Despite the fierce resistance, the British 78th Infantry Division, supported by artillery and airstrikes, managed to break through the German defences and capture Adrano on August 6, 1943. The fall of Adrano marked a turning point in the battle for the Etna Line, as it opened the way for the final Allied push towards Messina. With the fall of Adrano and the capture of key positions along the Etna Line, the German and Italian forces began a strategic withdrawal towards Messina. The Allies pressed their advantage, with Patton's 7th Army advancing rapidly along the northern coast and Montgomery's 8th Army pushing up from the south. The retreating Axis forces fought a series of delaying actions, but the Allied momentum was unstoppable. The Americans and British closed in on Messina from both flanks, determined to prevent the Axis from evacuating their troops to the mainland. The final battle for Messina culminated on August 17, 1943. Despite the fierce resistance, the Allies entered the city, but the Germans had managed to evacuate a significant portion of their forces across the Strait of Messina. Although some Axis troops escaped, the capture of Messina marked the end of the Sicilian campaign. The victory in Sicily was a significant triumph for the Allies. The success of Operation Husky paved the way for the invasion of mainland Italy, leading to the eventual downfall of Mussolini's regime and the opening of a new front in the war against Nazi Germany. But it came at a high cost, with both sides suffering heavy casualties in one of the most hard-fought campaigns of the Mediterranean theatre.